Welcome back. This is going to be part 2 of my new player's guide, or beginner's player guide. Originally I had something different planned for this, but after talking with some of the Lords, I decided to revise the format that I was going to have, or at least the format for this video, to bring up some, honestly, like, important fundamental aspects of the mod that I'd actually just kind of skipped over mentally because I've played it for so long that it kind of is just second nature for me. And those are mostly to do with the scale of the mod and how like maps and things like along those lines work. So if you didn't know already, all of the maps in the game are drawn to 1 to 3 scale, while the units themselves are 1 to 7. So a lot of people ask like, oh, can I make my units bigger? And for multiplayer, the answer is no, because the mod is balanced around the sizes that they are. So if you take like a 73-man unit and you multiply it by 7, that's the size of a battalion of the 70E would be in real life. And likewise with every other unit. Cavalry is done in, I believe, generally regimental size, except for light cav, which are, I believe, half squadrons. The Lords will probably comment and tell me how wrong I am about that aspect of cavalry breakdown, but in general, that's the idea. So everything's done on the battalion level and regimental level for cavalry, and then you have your full army corps. On maps, like I said, they're drawn to 1 to 3 scale, so everything you see in the game is about 3 times that distance in real life. It's a good thing to remember because another complaint that people say is like, oh, my infantry's too inaccurate or something along those lines. Like, they don't hit the broadside of a barn, or I can't make any casualties despite shooting for a long time. That's where, one, stats make a difference. Things like accuracy and reload. So this unit has pretty terrible stats. You can see 17 accuracy and 27 reload. That means that each unit has basically like a cone of fire in vanilla. You might remember the red arc. That arc is still there, just not shown in the game for realism purposes. But the accuracy modifier modifies the size of that cone, essentially. So each of these models will have its own cone of fire, and the accuracy, the higher the number, the thinner the cone is, so more rounds will have less dispersion. And the cone is actually up and down, which is why if you're shooting uphill, I don't have a good hill in this spawn. Let me see if I can find one. So if like you're shooting uphill, some of the rounds will actually hit below and into the ground. So that's why units shooting downhill tend to have a better dispersion, because your cone of fire is now looking more downward, just like in real life. It's easier to shoot downhill than it would be to shoot uphill. A good thing to also consider is that range, because you don't actually see the range the range reticle. There's actually an easy way to do that, which is on your cursor. There's the green dot. If you notice, it will eventually go to red. So right there it was red, now it's green, red. That actually means that this unit is in range or not in range. So that's right here is the maximum range that this unit could shoot without having to move. So if you're shooting at like this distance, you're probably not going to inflict many losses on him, especially with only 17 accuracy and 27 reload. Meanwhile, something like light infantry, let me see if I can find one. This unit here has 27 accuracy and 86 reload. That's significantly better. There's not an easy way to like percentage-wise calculate the difference between a 17 reload and a 27 reload. Just know that the average considered for like good shooting stats would be somewhere around like 20 accuracy and 50 reload. So when you're looking at units and what you're paying for stat-wise in terms of shooting, that's what you want to know. Is it above average? Is it average? Can I use it as filler? So in this case, if I was to use this line, it's literally there just to take shots. It's cost effective. It's not going to do a lot of damage, but it can take damage or be used as a reserve. And you know, if I'm having an 800 gold unit shoot at my 150 gold unit, then it's trading better than and vice versa. Um, Anyways, that's that on shooting. Just remember that in real life, like in the 1760s or something along those lines, the Prussians conducted a musket training course, basically, with a battalion-size unit, and they tested how accurate a battalion could shoot at different ranges and after a certain amount of volleys. And if I remember correctly, it's something like 125 yards was the average that a Prussian line could hit with good accuracy and percentage of casualties. Obviously, like something closer, like 75 was preferred, and they found that like after the second or third volley, accuracy diminished significantly due to the smoke and things along those lines. So in game, that translates pretty well with how accuracy works. Uh, Units about this close, they'll do significant amount of damage versus shooting at like what is equivalency of like 300 yards. And I do say yards because the metric system wasn't introduced to Europe until Napoleon conquered them and brought the revolution with him. So it wasn't technically meters yet. Just a fun historical factoid. The other thing about the game is that it balances itself between tactical and strategic. And what I mean by that is, you have your tactical elements like your battalions, and you can micro them and, move them around as you would a unit commander of a, battalion or a brigade or division or whatever. That's the tactical aspect. The strategic aspect of the game is actually represented on the maps and by the speed classes. The strategic elements based on your spawns, so like, say, you can see here on the map up here, the coalition or Imperial spawns up here and the coalition spawns down here, and you'll basically be forced to make a meeting engagement somewhere over here. And that's more or less dictated by what we use in the mod called the lines of communication system. Each side generally on maps have a headquarter, which is represented by the 4 pointers, and then there's points of interest essentially along the map that you would want to control, and those are usually 1 or 2 points. I think there are a couple 3 pointers. On historical maps, they'll be labeled famous villages or areas that were fought over, so like Ugama on the Waterloo map, or Lingy or something along those lines, So, but on custom maps like this one, they're just generic buildings at points of interest that kind of make it interesting. The other part of the strategic element was what I've been alluding to with cavalry, which is that you have to scout to kind of feel out the fog of war. So right now you can see that my whole army is hidden. If I press ready and the game starts, my army will still be hidden. Everything but my general will always be hidden in the game until they're spotted. And as mentioned before, things like light cav, which their historical role was actually to help be the eyes and ears of the army. They did a lot of the scouting ahead of time. I think it's in 1805 is when Napoleon used his light cav scouting ability to help outpace and screen Mac, and then culminated in the Ulm campaign. So that sort of strategic element is actually still at play in these games. Denying scouting, using scouting, trying to find where the enemy armies are and where they're going. Like on this map, there is actually a possibility that the coalition could forsake all of this section of the map and just come straight down this side of the pond to attack your 4-pointer. But if you never scout over here and you only scout on this side of the map, you would never know that. There could be 4 corps just marching behind your lines to attack your HQ, and your team could be all moving this way away from the enemy. But without scouting and that type of thing, or denying the enemy visibility, then you would have never known that an army is coming up behind you. And then in terms of actual tactical flexibility, like Napoleon's army was renowned at some point for its ability to make quick, rapid maneuvers and marches. You think of something like Marengo, where Desaix used his better knowledge and ability as a general to countermarch to the sound of guns, quickly redeploying his forces, and at the like exact moment that they were needed to counterattack at Marengo, or his Napoleon's ability to take multiple corps apart, have them march at different directions on different road networks, as represented in the game, sort of with these different road networks, and then recombine them elsewhere. If you've watched some of my other tactical reviews and strategic reviews, you'll have seen, I think most recently with the 1809 game, where Lan's L5 Corps was able to basically attack one flank and then come back to the center and redeploy quickly. So that's where the speed differences generally are represented as that sort of strategic element. And the ability for like officers to translate orders quickly in the field. So these sort of big provisional battalions are represent like lower tier, lower trained infantry that would require more and more effort to train, and maybe they won't be as quick to make an attack or make an order in real life. So versus like a crack trained, the old guard or something along those lines that have thousands of hours of training and experience in combat and are a well-oiled killing machine. The same goes true for cavalry and skirmishers and everything, even guns. So like these smaller battalion guns represent, faster speed to keep pace with the infantry, whereas I have longer range support guns that are a little bit slower to set up, and slower speed and pacing. And those are things to consider whenever you're building your armies. You don't want to have an all L4, L5 army, and it just sits there in a line fight. The whole point of having the speed is to be able to maneuver and move your pieces of your army quickly and keep the enemy off balance, versus an L2 army. You want to be able to have deep reserves, understand that your army's not going to be as flexible in the tactical or the strategic gameplay, and you have to build around that. So once you kind of have a strategic idea, like say all my allies, we want to go and take this one pointer, and we want to try and block off this one pointer up here by taking this ridge line. We now have a strategic plan. We'll probably use this road to get some of our guys up there quickly, maybe send some L6s along this here to try and get the initial LOC. Those are the type of like pre-game decisions that you have to try and make with your allies, and you'll see that probably most prevalent in clan games, where we have a general strategic idea, and our armies are built towards that strategic idea of having maybe like an avant-garde army, the main infantry reserve, and so on and so forth. But yeah, the other thing to note is, I guess with terrain and features like that, where roads speed up, things like this forest here will slow down. It also provides line of sight breakage, so some units will actually remain hidden along, the forest edge. I think it was in the 1809 campaign early on when I think it was Davout was fighting the initial Austrian push, but some of his units moved into a forest and were basically bushwhacked by Austrian grenadiers that appeared out of nowhere, essentially, due to the amount of smoke and fog. So making sure forests and things like that are scouted around you so you don't have a surprise flank attack or things along those lines. And I think that strategic element is unique to NTW3 in general. As far as I'm aware, most of the other mods for Total War in general tend towards the tactical gameplay, because in principle your strategic gameplay is built on the what is it called, the Grand Campaign map. But NTW tries to have both of those in at least some small part represented, and it definitely makes for interesting gameplay once you sort of get past the initial learning curve of how to actually use your army and how to deploy it and things along those lines. But, you know, I just wanted to go over that fairly briefly, for those who don't know, like, some of the different aspects of the mod and how it's structured. Because I think a lot of people expect it to have, you know, huge, massive battles and all this other stuff, but you know, armies are generally capped around like 2,000 to 2,500. There are some exceptions. And then, you know, you multiply that by 4, and then by 4 again for the other side. There are some scenarios that have an obscene amount of units, but those are scenarios and less of a 4v4 situation. I guess, what else would I need to cover? Oh, right, with generals, another benefit of having a high-star general, so this one's only 2-star, high-star generals will also provide scouting range, and the idea is that, you know, historically, like, some generals were better able to grasp a situation of where they were in the battlefield, and make strategic maneuvers or tactical maneuvers as they went. So there are actually some generals that can spot almost as far, I think, as like certain artillery. They're not quite as good as light cav, but I know for a fact, having used like Suvorov, who is one of the highest star generals in the game, I was able to spot light cav even though I was using lancers, and the lancers were still hidden. So you can, in some cases, spot quite far with high star generals. It's just another little bonus that you can get. Lower star generals provide very little in terms of overall scouting range, but whenever you're engaged, it'll give you a little bit of an idea of maybe like where the reserves are, or like what's behind the lines, or maybe you can see a little bit of a flank maneuver coming in at you, and you can prepare yourself for it. But yeah, that's probably going to be it for this video. In general, like I said, this one was just going to be a very high-level overview of like some of the strategic and tactical scale related things to NTW that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. I think next video we'll probably go into a very high-level overview of tactical deployments, and then I know a lot of people want to know how to use cav, and I know a lot of people want to learn how to, you know, get into melee and things along those lines. So hopefully I'll be able to keep going with these videos, and let me know in the comments what you guys think, and then yeah, that's probably gonna be it for now. Thanks so much.